Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive with us.
Yeah.
This time, we're going to be tackling a mystery that has captivated people for well over a century, and hopefully we can do it justice.
Oh, I think we
The
can.
Mary Celeste.
The Mary Celeste.
And we have a ton of research here. We have articles, historical accounts, and most notably, a book called Ghost Ship by Brian Hicks.
Yeah, great book.
Yeah, so this is going to be your shortcut to becoming a Mary Celeste expert, hopefully.
I think so. I think we'll go over all the main points.
Okay, excellent. So let's just dive right in.
Sure.
December 5th, 1872, the Atlantic Ocean. We have the Dei Gratia, which spots another ship sailing erratically.
The Mary Celeste.
The Mary Celeste. And it looks seaworthy sails are partially set, but there's no sign of life.
Yeah.
So the Captain David Morehouse sends a boarding party to investigate.
Right, and that's where things start to get strange.
Now, before we get into what they find, I have the question.
Okay.
Did Morehouse know the Mary Celeste or her captain?
Well, that's one of the most intriguing aspects of this story, actually, and it's something that Brian Hicks highlights in his book.
Okay.
Morehouse and Captain Benjamin Briggs, the captain of the Mary Celeste, they were not only acquainted, but they may have even been friends.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, they actually dined together the night before the Mary Celeste set sail.
So imagine Morehouse's surprise.
Yeah, right.
When he sends the boarding party over and realizes
It's his buddy's ship just floating around.
it's his friend's ship, right? So what did they find?
They found a ghost ship.
Literally.
Pretty much, the ship was fully stocked. I mean, 6 months worth of food and water.
Wow.
The cargo was intact, 701 barrels of industrial alcohol.
Right.
Personal belongings were undisturbed, but every single person was gone.
Okay, so Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and the 7 crew members
Oh, Dinesh.
vanished.
Without a trace.
Okay, so let's talk about the lifeboat.
Okay.
We know it was missing, but it wasn't just gone. It was cut loose.
Yeah.
Does that suggest like an organized evacuation as opposed to just like a panicked, everyone for themselves kind of thing?
It's a really perplexing clue. The davits, the things that hold the lifeboat, were damaged, but the painter, the rope connecting it to the ship, was neatly cut. So someone deliberately let that lifeboat go.
Yeah.
So now the question is why?
Right. So could Captain Briggs have actually believed the ship was in imminent danger?
Potentially.
Ordered like a temporary evacuation to the lifeboat, intending to return?
That's a very popular theory, that he thought, okay, let's get in the lifeboat, we'll sort things out, and we'll come back.
But then what happened? Why didn't they get back on board?
Well, and that's where we get into all the theories,
Yeah.
Did something happen in the lifeboat? Did a storm separate them from the Mary Celeste?
Right.
Did someone fall overboard trying to reboard the ship?
Yeah, it's so strange. Wouldn't an experienced captain like Briggs have taken precautions? Especially if they were in a precarious situation. Like, why wouldn't he have secured that lifeboat better?
And that's the core of the mystery, right?
Yeah.
It's like logic versus the inexplicable we don't know.
Right. It just doesn't make sense.
Nope.
And that lack of answers just fuels the speculation even more.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we're here 150 years later still talking about it.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those theories.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in the book, does Hicks lean towards any particular explanation?
Hicks is really good. He lays out the evidence very clearly. He goes through all the prevailing theories, both the ones from the time and modern ones.
Right.
And he even delves into the salvage hearings that were held in Gibraltar.
Oh, yeah, after the Dei Gratia brought the Mary Celeste to port.
Right, because remember, the Dei Gratia took the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar.
So what happened at those hearings? I mean, did they bring any clarity to the situation or?
It's interesting because they actually raised more questions than answers.
Okay.
There are accusations of foul play. Maybe the Dei Gratia crew was involved somehow.
Right.
Or maybe it was insurance fraud. Yeah. But there was no concrete evidence for anything. It's all just speculation.
So no smoking gun.
No smoking gun.
But that's when the story really starts to gain notoriety.
Right. This is when it starts to become the Mary Celeste, the legend.
It becomes a symbol of the unexplained.
Right. And of the power of a good mystery.
Exactly. Okay, so if foul play wasn't proven, what were the other theories that were floating around at the time?
Oh, well, you always have the classic pirate attack.
Right, of course. Come on.
Yeah. But as Hicks points out, the Mary Celeste wasn't plundered.
Yeah.
Her cargo was untouched. Valuables were left behind.
Right. It doesn't really fit.
And by 1872, piracy on the open Atlantic was becoming increasingly rare.
Okay. So we can probably rule out pirates.
Probably, yeah.
What about natural phenomena? I know there are theories about water spouts, rogue waves,
Hmm.
Could those explain the damage and the missing crew?
Sure, a powerful water spout could definitely explain the water in the hold and the damaged sails. But would an experienced captain like Briggs abandon ship because of a water spout?
Right.
I mean, especially when the ship was otherwise seaworthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't totally track.
Unless he misjudged the situation, maybe he thought it was worse than it was, or there was like a malfunctioning instrument or something.
That's where the faulty chronometer theory comes in.
Oh, okay.
If Briggs's chronometer was off, he could have miscalculated their position and thought they were in danger.
And wasn't the Mary Celeste behind schedule?
She was.
So if he was under pressure to deliver the cargo on time, a faulty chronometer would have just made him more anxious.
Absolutely. Yeah, and maybe led to a rash decision.
That makes sense. And I think one of the sources mentioned a specific hazard, the Dalabrat Reef.
Right near Santa Maria in the Azores.
Yeah, if Briggs thought they were near that reef, it would make sense why he would want to get off the ship.
Yeah, it's a pretty treacherous area.
But wouldn't he have used other navigational tools to confirm his position, like, besides the chronometer?
He probably did, but, maybe it was a combination of things, The faulty chronometer, bad weather, obscuring landmarks, and then the pressure of being behind schedule.
Right, maybe it all just kind of snowballed.
Exactly, and led to a really bad decision.
It's such a puzzle with so many pieces.
Yeah.
And we've only just started to unpack them.
And believe me, there are more theories to come.
Oh, I bet there are. Okay, so before we move on to those wilder theories, I want to know, what stands out to you so far? What details are particularly interesting? Or do you see any connections between the evidence and these initial theories?
That's a good question. Let me think about that for a second. Well, one thing that always strikes me is how quickly we jump to extraordinary explanations, when we're faced with the unknown.
Right.
But before we go full-on sea monsters and supernatural events,
Yeah.
let's consider a theory that's rooted in science.
Okay.
And it has to do with the Mary Celeste's cargo, those 7,701 barrels of industrial alcohol.
Ah, yes, the exploding alcohol theory.
I've read about this.
Didn't one of the sources mention a scientific experiment that showed how alcohol fumes could cause a pretty powerful explosion?
You're thinking of Andrea Sella, a chemist at University College London.
Right.
He did this experiment where he showed that alcohol vapor, when ignited in a confined space,
Yeah.
can create this pressure wave explosion.
Wow.
That's strong enough to blow out Hatch's damaged structures,
Really?
but without leaving any burn marks.
Okay, so how does this tie back to the Mary Celeste?
Well, remember those 9 empty barrels of alcohol we talked about?
Yeah.
What if they weren't just leaky? What if a small leak allowed fumes to build up in the hold?
So you're saying, Captain Briggs, maybe he smelled the fumes or noticed something was off,
Yeah.
and he ordered an inspection of the hold.
Exactly. He might have opened the hatches to ventilate the area,
Uh-oh.
not realizing the danger.
Yeah.
A spark, a drop lantern, even static electricity could have ignited those fumes.
And caused an explosion.
Boom, a powerful explosion that blew out the hatches and created a shockwave that knocked the crew off their feet.
Okay, hold on. If there was an explosion, why wasn't there any fire damage?
That's the thing about Sella's experiment.
Yeah.
The explosion itself wouldn't necessarily cause a fire, especially in a well-ventilated space.
Okay.
The pressure wave would be the main force, knocking things over, maybe even blowing the lifeboat loose from its davits.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this theory fits. The open hatches, the damaged davits, even the water in the hold could have been caused by that force.
Right.
But why abandon ship after an event like that? I mean, wouldn't they try to assess the damage? Regain control?
You have to think about the human element.
Yeah.
Imagine the terror of a sudden, unexplained explosion.
Right.
They might have panicked thinking the ship was going to sink or that there was going to be another even bigger explosion.
Right. Total chaos.
Yeah, in that chaos, Briggs might have ordered everyone into the lifeboat thinking they'd stay close, assess the situation once things calm down.
But then something went wrong.
Exactly the line connecting the lifeboat to the Mary Celeste snapped, or a sudden squall blew them away, or maybe something happened while they were trying to get back on board.
Man, it's just heartbreaking to imagine the Briggs family huddled in that lifeboat, watching their ship sail away, knowing they might never see land again.
It really is. It's a reminder that the sea can be so unforgiving.
Yeah.
Even a small mishap, a moment of bad judgment can have devastating consequences.
As we're going through all these theories, I can't help but wonder if we're trying to impose order on something that was inherently chaotic.
That's a good point.
What if there wasn't one single cause?
Right.
What if it was just a series of unfortunate events?
A cascade of little things.
Yeah, exactly. A cascade of mishaps, miscalculations that led to this.
It's easy to get caught up in the search for a single dramatic explanation.
Yeah, we want that smoking gun.
Right. But the truth might be much more mundane.
A series of seemingly insignificant things that added up to disaster. So maybe instead of looking for the smoking gun, we should be looking for those subtle clues.
The little things that when you put them together...
Yeah, they paint a bigger picture.
Right, like a tapestry.
Yeah.
Woven from threads of circumstance.
The leaky barrels, the faulty chronometer, the bad weather, the explosion, the damaged davits.
Yeah.
The cut painter.
Yeah, it's all connected.
All connected, wow. It's a reminder that sometimes the most complex mysteries aren't solved with some big revelation, but with a deeper understanding of the context.
Right, the characters, the small events that lead to those unimaginable consequences.
Okay, so before we jump into some of the more out there theories, I have a question.
Okay.
Is there anything else from Ghost Ship that you think might be helpful here?
Oh, Hicks brings up a point that I think is often overlooked.
Okay.
The ship's pumps.
Okay.
He notes that the Mary Celeste had been carrying coal on a previous voyage.
Okay.
And coal dust can clog pumps.
Oh, right.
Making it hard to tell how much water is actually in the hold.
So even if the pumps were working, Briggs might have gotten a false reading.
Exactly.
And thought the ship was taking on more water than it was.
That's right.
Which would explain the urgency to get off the ship.
Yeah, if he thought they were sinking.
Right. Even if it was a mistake.
Exactly. It would make sense.
Man, every piece of information we uncover just makes this more complicated.
It does. It's like peeling back layers of an onion.
Yeah, and speaking of layers...
Oh boy, here we go.
Let's move on to some of those more outlandish theories surrounding the Mary Celeste.
Okay.
Are you ready for sea monsters? Giant squids?
Bring it on.
Maybe even aliens?
I'm ready to explore all the possibilities.
All right, let's set sail into those uncharted waters.
But remember, even when we're dealing with the fantastical, we still have to use logic and evidence as our guide.
I like that, our compass of logic. Okay, so tell me, what are some of the wildest theories that have been proposed? And are any of them even remotely supported by the facts? All right, so we're back and ready to dive into those wilder theories, the ones that have really captured the public's imagination.
Yeah, the Mary Celeste definitely lends itself to some creative speculation.
Right, it's like a blank canvas for the imagination.
Exactly.
Well, let's hear it. What are some of the most fantastical explanations people have come up with over the years?
You've got everything from sea monsters to giant squid attacks to even alien abduction.
Oh, come on, alien abduction, really?
I mean, hey, why not, right?
I know. I guess anything's possible, but do any of these theories have even a shred of evidence to back them up?
Well, there's the fact that the ship's chronometer was found face down but still working.
Okay.
Some people see that as a sign of supernatural interference. You know, like something messed with it but then left it running.
But couldn't that just be explained by, the ship being tossed around in a storm or something?
Yes. Of course it could. I mean, that's the thing with these wilder theories. They often rely on interpreting ambiguous details as proof of something extraordinary.
Instead of considering more logical explanations.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about Arthur Conan Doyle. You mentioned earlier that he wrote a short story based on the Mary Celeste.
Oh, yeah. J. Habakkuk Jepson's statement. It was published back in 1884.
And didn't that story kind of add fuel to the fire of these more fantastical theories?
Absolutely. Conan Doyle's story was basically a fictionalized and very sensationalized account of what happened.
Okay.
I mean, he changed names, dates, even the ship's route.
Wow.
And he came up with this whole plot involving a vengeful ex-slave and a plan to sail the ship to Africa.
So he took the real mystery and turned it into this big adventure story.
Basically, yeah.
And even though he said it was fiction, it still had a huge impact.
It really did. It helped popularize the Mary Celeste mystery, but it also introduced a lot of inaccuracies and, just fueled people's imaginations.
Leading to even more wild speculation.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how a good story can really take on a life of its own.
It is. So it seems like the Mary Celeste isn't just about a vanished crew. It's also about how we as humans deal with the unknown.
That's a really good point.
We want answers, and when we don't have them, we tend to fill in the gaps with our own ideas.
Right. Our minds don't like unanswered questions.
And sometimes those ideas can be pretty far out there.
They can be, but that's part of what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
I agree. It's that mix of real-life mystery and human imagination.
Yeah, it's a story that just keeps evolving.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling a mix of wonder and sadness, for those lost at sea, but also a sense of awe at the power of a good mystery.
Yeah, the Mary Celeste is a powerful reminder of how much we still don't know.
About the ocean, about history, about ourselves even.
Right.
It's a symbol of the unknown and, a challenge to our need to explain everything.
I think that's a perfect way to put it.
So I guess the Mary Celeste will continue to sail on in our collective imagination?
It will, and hopefully it will continue to inspire people to explore and to question and to never stop searching for answers.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day someone will uncover the truth about what really happened.
Maybe, but even if they don't, the journey itself is worth taking.
I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the Mary Celeste mystery.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners out there, thank you for coming along for the ride.
We appreciate you.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube.
Yes, and follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads for more updates and behind-the-scenes content.
We love connecting with our community, so join the conversation and share your thoughts on the Mary Celeste or any other mysteries that have caught your attention.
We're always looking for new mysteries to explore.
So until next time, keep your curiosity alive, embrace the unknown, and never stop searching for the stories that lie hidden beneath the surface.
Happy exploring, everyone!